Hey everyone, James Labrie from Dream Theater, and you're listening to or watching the podcast Talking into Infinity with JT and Brian. Enjoy this. These guys are extremely informative. I love their dialogue. I love their interpretation of the songs, who and what we are, what we were going after. They're very accurate in their interpretations and descriptions, and I just think this is a great show, and these guys are doing a stand-up stellar job. So once again, enjoy Talking into Infinity with JT and Brian.
What is going on, everybody? It is Talking into Infinity, and yes, I am a fat guy with a microphone, but no, I am not your regular host. It is me, Chris Aiken, from the Classic Metal Show and every other damn podcast known to man, sitting in for John, who is out there at the Sammy Hagar show tonight. But of course, I am joined for Talking into Infinity with the actual co-host of the show, Mr. Brian Hendrickson. Brian, how are you, man?
I'm doing awesome, man. It is very cool to have you on the show. You are the guy that officially signs our paychecks, which, to date have been a few and far between, but the ones we did get, I was very appreciative of.
Yeah, I think there's one?
Well, yeah, just one so far. But no, when we first started this whole thing, I was starting to talk to John. We did 3 shows, I think, before you decided, for I don't know what reason, but you knew John, so that right away it makes me question you. But you decided to go ahead and have Talking into Infinity and put it on the CMS Network. Now,
sure.
Can you describe what exactly is the CMS Network? What does that entail?
Well, it's a long, so not that long of a process, but at first it was just the Classic Metal Show, and I had a side show called Aftershocks TV. And I'm a fan of podcasts. Like my phone, I have at any given time, I have 30 to 40 podcasts that I'm subscribed to, and I don't really listen to radio anymore. I listen to podcasts. So I was noticing the trends that everybody was kind of pooling up their podcasts, and I had a bunch of friends that had podcasts as well. So I just kind of was like, well, I'm promoting everybody else's podcasts anyway. Why don't I just build something that's ours? So I kind of did. I'm a tech first and foremost. I'm technical. So I built a website and I figured out the RSS stuff for it and the podcasty shit. And I just sort of built this network and then I wanted it to be kind of diverse. I didn't want it just to be, Classic Metal Show stupidity or interviewing this band or that band. I wanted to kind of diversify a little bit and make it cool. So, I started adding shows that were different than what I was doing. I added Poppet's Corner, which is kind of like your extreme metal type stuff. And then right around that same time, John was starting up this, or he had talked to me about it anyway. And as is no secret, and I'll say it right now, Kale, I do see your question right here, and I'll admit it. No, I am not a Dream Theater fan. I'm really not. I've interviewed those guys a bunch of times, but that being said, no, I'm definitely not a Dream Theater fan. And that's kind of what made me want to have what John was doing on the show. It was something that I was never really going to cover. I would do the interviews if they came up, if I don't know, Derek Sherinian or whatever got pitched to me, I would do it. But I just always thought that it might make more sense if it was done by people that love it. So I watched a few of you guys' shows, and I'll be honest, what it did was it made me go back and listen to the albums. You guys would like really break down the different albums and stuff. And I'd be like, all right, well, let me listen to this. And I ain't gonna lie, it hasn't really swayed me into being like, okay, well, now I get it. I'm still not going to listen to The Astonishing and be like, oh shit, that thing really is awesome. But it did make me go back and listen to it. And I figured if it could do that to me, then it probably makes sense to promote it. So I brought you guys in, and it helped diversify the CMS Network. So now we have the 6 shows. We just added Lord Nelson from Stuck Mojo doing his Live and Loud with the Lord, which is anything from guys from carpenters and he's like more lifestyle type stuff, as well as bands. So we have this unique kind of covering everything at this point: pop culture, pop life, music, metal, progressive metal, death metal, whatever you want. So it's just kind of a cool thing.
So what is the current music that let's just say a few newer type bands? What is the kind of music that you generally throw on your playlist? I know you're kind of all over the place.
Oh yeah.
But give us some stuff like in the metal rock realm. What's lately these days?
Lately, I have just been like, the heaviness can't get heavy enough for me lately. I don't know what's going on with me. It's in real life, when I'm not working on music type stuff, I listen to like yacht rock nonstop. It's all Rupert Holmes and Christopher Cross and
oh wow,
like Air Supply and stuff like that. I mean, really mellow. But when I'm doing anything involved with the network or working, it's all like Darkane or Cannibal Corpse or,
okay.
I really listen to, I have a crazy diverse ear, like probably the most of anybody you'll ever meet. So, I listen to a lot of stuff, and, I end up finding out stuff about bands that I didn't know. Like I just mentioned Darkane as an example. I interviewed Peter Wildur the other day from Darkane. He's the guy that founded Darkane. And I don't even know if you know who Darkane is, but they're like they're really heavy. They're like this brutal band. Well, come to find out, Peter played on 2 of the Labrie albums, and he auditioned for Dream Theater. So it was like, well, I didn't know this, but I and it's kind of how everything works for me. So out of that, at the end of the interview, I was like, hey, I got these guys that are doing this Dream Theater show. Would you be interested in coming on their show? So now he's potentially going to come on and talk about his audition to Dream Theater. And, and I mean, it's my musical eclectiveness, I think, leads to a lot of guests and a lot of growth for everything on the network. And you guys are just one example of that, but it's great. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, we lucked out because, I mean, honestly, you kind of started us off onto the Dream Theater tree of interviews. Like, I know you were instrumental in setting up the Chance Labrie from Falsehead, who has an awesome new album out, by the way. And also, we're going to mention multiple times, June 25th, we are going to have the full interview with James Labrie live, and Chance Labrie and Paul Logue. That's been moved up. The time has changed to 1 p.m. Eastern time on June 25th. So do not forget that. We're going to be basically just doing a deep dive, probably going track to track through the James Labrie album, and maybe get a few, recording, stories, maybe some Dream Theater stories. Maybe we can get James and Chance to, rat out their dad on some stuff we didn't know, their dad or their son on some stuff we didn't know about. But I just wanted to plug that real quick. And also coming up, actually, this Sunday, Father's Day at 2 p.m., we're going to have Rich Wilson, who did the Lifting Shadows Dream Theater autobiography. I guess it's not autobiography, the biography.
Right.
And that's at 2 p.m. We're going to stream that live. And so definitely feel free to come on and join the show and interact with Rich. And we're looking forward to that. But so how many interviews would you say, like, have you done? How many podcasts? Are we like talking 5,000 at this point? Like Joe's podcast combined? Like,
dude, it's. I was talking to Matt that I do Aftershocks with the other day, and I do in a month 42 episodes of podcasts.
Oh my God.
I do 10 a week. I do 5 classic metal show and 5 Chris Aiken Presents. I do Talk to Me once a week, and I do Aftershocks once every other week.
Okay.
So, and I think that's all of them that I do regularly. Plus, I'm always game. Anybody invites me to do anything, I'm always will. Look, I mean, we're in the entertainment business. If somebody says, "Hey, come on and promote your shit," then you do.
Right.
And I got a lot of things to promote, whether it's all my shows or heavy metal television or my businesses or whatever. There's always stuff to promote. So, yeah, 5,000. Probably. I've definitely done 5,000 interviews. I know for a fact that I've done that over the years, maybe even 10. It's been a lot.
So if I have your phone right now and I'm looking down, let's leave emails out of this. What's the most famous rock star that's in your contacts phones right now?
Oh, wow.
In your phone. I know a couple offhand you've told me, but go ahead.
Does that count dead guys too? Because I never I'm always weird about taking dead guys out.
I mean, go ahead. This is very interesting.
Well, I definitely have Ronnie James Dio's phone number in my phone.
Get out of here.
I do.
Is it it's still all right? Hold it up to the camera. Don't cover up the number. I seriously want to see this where it says Dio.
I'm not doing that. But I have Lemmy. I have Lemmy from Motorhead is one that's in there.
This is insane.
Those are probably the biggest two. I have Stephen Piercy's phone number. I have Don Dawkins' phone number. I mean, some of these guys I've worked with though. I mean, like Dawkins, I did their website for 10 years and, and doing so many interviews, you get a lot of phone numbers and you just kind of keep a lot of phone numbers, you keep them. And I've been able to become friends with a lot of these guys, outside of just doing the interview once a year to where now, I call them and whatever, I mean, perfect example. I'm Johnny Gioeli, who's the singer of Hardline and Axl Rudy Pell. And he's in a band called Crush 40. That's like the main music for the Sonic the Hedgehog games. Him and I are starting a business together. Wow. Just because we've known each other for a while and it's involved with the music business. And, he knows that we'll have a good time. So we're, we're doing that now. So I've really kind of weaved my way into the industry without a whole lot of help.
So one of the guys I remember you told me before that you said you'd hung out with multiple times and become good friends with is Jeff Tate. Can you share a couple one or two good Jeff Tate stories for us? What do you got?
Oh, well, dude, I have a bunch of those with Jeff. Jeff is one of them guys. Like, and you probably notice this if you go back and watch interviews with him. If you know your shit, he's great. If you know your shit. But if you go in and you ask him something dumb, man, he can't wait to pounce on you and just keep pouncing on you for the entire interview. If you ask him, hey, what's it like to record with blah, 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 he will be like, gee, I don't know. What do you think it's like? He will jump your shit in a heartbeat. I've always gotten along with Jeff really, really well. I have a couple stories with him. Once we when I was doing the metal show on WMMS, we did a like a takeover thing with him where we worked it out and we got songs that he wanted and then he came to the station, to do the show. The funny thing was he had no way to get there. So he asked me if I could pick him up at the airport. I was like, yeah, sure. And basically they wanted me to pick him up at the airport and then take him to the hotel. They were playing at like Blossom or somewhere the next night. So the station was in downtown Cleveland and we had to get him to Akron after doing the metal show from like 10 to midnight.
Right.
So I didn't have a minivan or something and Jeff had all kinds of luggage and shit. So I had to get some friends. So I recruited my friend Jeff, who's a giant Queensryche fan, to do it. Well, what ended up happening was we showed up at Jeff's house at like 3:00 in the afternoon to like party, like pregame to pick up Jeff Tate at the airport, so we get all fucked up, just partying and having a good time. We pick up Tate. My friends are petrified. They've never met a rock star in their life. I'm all like, hey, what's up, Jeff? How are you? These guys are like, and when we got to the station, they all stood against the wall and didn't make a peep for a while till finally I was like busting their chops. I literally busted their chops. I was like, what, are you guys just going to fucking stand there? And Tate was like, yeah, you guys just going to fucking stand there? You're making me uncomfortable. But that's just one. I mean, that night I partied with them, not necessarily with Jeff, but we went to the hotel and then I found the rest of the Queensryche guys in the bar. So then we ended up partying with the Queensryche guys at the bar. there was a time not that long ago, John met me, like he played a little tiny place called the Kent Stage where Jordan Rudess is playing, called the Kent Stage. And it's a small room. I think it holds like 300 or 400 people at the most. And Tate was there doing this acoustic thing. So I hit up John on a text. I was like, dude, come on out, man. It's pretty sweet. So John hits me up. He's like, yeah, I'll come out. So he comes out, and we meet up and we watch Tate. And after Tate plays, John's like, oh man, I want to meet Jeff Tate. And I had passes. I had a pass for me and a pass for my friend Scotty. So I ended up giving John my pass. And John, if you look on John's Facebook, you can see him meeting up with Jeff Tate and the band. And meanwhile, I stayed at the merch table and just hit on Jeff's daughter for like a half hour. I just sat there with Amanda and I think her name's Amanda, and just, shot the shit with her, and was totally like, yeah, this is fine with me, because I've met Jeff a million times. I didn't care. So just fun, man. I've always, Tate's one of those guys, man. He's a good dude, man. If you know what you're talking about when you're talking to him. But man, if you don't, look out.
So, you not only have all of these podcasts and all these shows, you're also like a very prolific writer.
Yeah.
And you have like kind of like one of the most ridiculous like stories of a personal story of like what happened to you. I don't know if you want to share all that.
I don't care.
Yeah.
I wrote a book about it. I don't care.
Yeah, you wrote a book about it. I mean, it's just one of the most fascinating like things to me, because I've always talked to John when we have people on here, and it's kind of a thing of when you're successful, what does that mean? And then like, is it drive? It's always drive versus talent. And I'm always kind of on the side of, man, drive will always out trump talent, and that's not an insult. That's actually kind of a compliment, to be honest, because it takes a hell of a lot more to have drive than it does talent, because you're just sort of born with that, right?
Right. Well, I have no talent. I'll admit that I have no talent at any of these things.
I'm not going to let you get away with saying that, but go ahead and tell your just sort of the back part of your story.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's the biggest story I have. Is I was working in a steel mill, with all that talent and all that brain power that I have. I was working in a steel mill, making steel ingots, and the furnace I was working on, full of copper, just blew up, blew up. And I took a 7-ton molten shower, man. And it was bad. I mean, it was 69% burns, 52% third degree with grafts. You can see the nice little scars all over me, it took me, 22 surgeries, 18 months of rehab, had to relearn to use my fingers, had to relearn to walk, was told that I wasn't going to keep my pinkies, was told that I wasn't keeping my arm, was told that if I worked real hard, that I might be able to walk with a 4-prong walker. I mean, it was bad. It was definitely bad, but I wasn't really ready to just quit, and I think that's really what it came down to for me was, I mean, I remember this one meeting we had. It was my family, as my mom, my dad, and my wife were there, and the doctors started telling us all this shit about, oh, well, we're cutting off your fingers tomorrow, and we're probably cutting off your hand and your arm because you got gangrene in your elbow, and if you work real hard, you might be able to walk with a walker, and blah blah blah. And I was like, fuck that, and I literally laughed at them, and I was like, we're not doing any of that shit. And the doctor was like, no, you don't understand. We have. And I was like, no, you don't understand. If I die on my own terms, and extremely selfish, because I did have kids and stuff, but I was like, fuck it. I'm not willing to go through life without an arm. I'm not, 26 years old. Now I'd probably be like, whatever, but back then I was just like, no way. I'm not doing it. And I fought through it. I fought like nobody's business to get better, because they told me, whatever you don't gain back after a year, that's kind of what you're settled into, and for me, I mean, like all these fingers, as an example, all the tendons up in here got burned through and they rolled back. And I still remember when I got up out of this burn accident. I didn't just immediately go into the coma. I got up and walked out of the burn room, just a mess, pouring blood everywhere. And I looked down at my hand and I saw my bones. It was fucked. But they had to reattach all these fingers, or the tendons in the fingers. So I had to relearn to move my fingers, and use them. So that's that. And the weird thing is that's kind of the genesis of all of this stuff, because one, I was lazy as shit before I got hurt. But once I got hurt, I had to be beyond laser focused as far as working and doing stuff. So I did, I was working nonstop on getting better and whatnot. And one of the things they wanted me doing was working with my fingers, because they were worried that I wasn't going to gain any use of the fingers back. So they gave me the tennis ball thing and told me, squeeze the tennis ball all day long or whatever. And I did that for probably 30 seconds. And I was like, I ain't doing this. But then the doctor was like, well, can you type? And I was like, yeah, I can type. And so he was like, well, type every day, practice typing. So that was what led me to, I would sit in my basement and just write whatever I was thinking as I was going through shit day to day. And, that was the start of me writing was because I had nothing else to do except heal.
So you were like literally the dude, like not even kidding, like the dude in the Metallica 1 video almost. So how long were you actually in a coma for then?
21 days. Yeah, I mean,
21. I never, honestly, I swear to God, I never, like, I knew you'd been through hell and back, but I had no idea. I mean, that is just like, you can't even, it sounds so ridiculous that you can't even fathom something like that.
Yeah, you know what, man. Dude, it sounds it. I'll be honest. I'm glad that I was in the coma, to be honest, because all of the really horrendous shit, all the scraping of the dead skin, because I was burned pretty much all 3rd degree. So with the 3rd degree burns, they have to scrape all that dead skin down 3 layers, right? Basically right almost to the muscle off. And I slept through all that shit. I had a bunch of weird dreams and stuff, which I wrote about in the book, dreams about being tied up in a pirate ship and wow. Pirates cutting on me and shit, cutting on me on a wall, like weird, crazy shit like that. But I kind of slept through all that stuff. So it was pretty cool that I slept when I slept. Yeah. If there's a way to be, it's cool to be in a coma, I'll take that, because I don't remember the harshest stuff of it. So
your book is available on Amazon, and this is just to plug you, but I do want to plug it because I'm always interested in stories. Like, I mean, people are cool and music's cool and all that, but like what's behind,
sure.
It's such a surreal thing because like,
well, nobody has this story. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's John and I think we talked about. I tried talking about the movie Signs one time by M. Night.
Yeah.
He thinks it's hokey because of the aliens, but the message in that movie, the idea of there's 2 ways of believing is are we all just kind of wandering around and then we just somehow we bump into each other, or is there something else at work here? And it's like this idea that like, okay, well, you went through all this crap. You met John met me, because I mean, I'm, and I'm just not just blowing smoke. Without you, we would not have this show. This show would be, we would have it, but it would not be the scale it has. You've like helped us push it to a whole new level.
Oh, cool.
And we're like super appreciative. I mean, I don't even know, you know more of the numbers than me. We're like 20 some countries and I don't know how many thousands of downloads, but it's just like I said, it's about this idea of like being interconnected in such a weird way. And
sure.
And like we had to like, okay, John had to meet a guy who was in a coma for fucking 3 weeks. I mean, it's a really bizarre, I don't know. So how did you first meet John? Let's go back to that too.
Well, I was on WMMS for a while, for a long while, actually. And John had his band, had Gatlin going at the time. And John and I just kind of clicked. Like he came up and did the show a couple of times, and I was a notorious dick to every band. Like every band that would come on, I was a notorious dick. But I got along with John, and and I got along with his guitar player, Don, as well, so we just got to be friends, over the years. And then, when we would do like even appearances or stuff, or we used to do like heavy metal karaoke out at Billy Morris's club, and John would always come out and be supportive and whatnot. And we just became friends. And then, at some point I owned this music magazine called Music's Bottom Line, and I actually sold it to John and his brother, at one point, because it was when it started. And this goes back to what we were saying before about the working habits. After I got hurt, I had nothing to do except recover for 4 years. So what did I do? I started a magazine, and I built a business. I built my first legit business while I was sitting home recovering. And then it was a 24-page magazine that came out every other week. And I was doing like 90% of the work myself. I was doing 90% of the writing, all of the booking, going out to shows to review the shows. I mean, I was a goddamn machine, to make it work. And John got involved in it because he was, he was a music fan, and he saw that he could get free tickets or, interview Sammy Hagar or whatever he wanted to do, because I was always like, hey, go ahead. If I don't have to do it, I'm fine. So, it's a long story with John. I don't know exactly that there's like one point where it's like, oh, I met this guy and we just sort of knew each other from the music days, I guess. And we stayed in touch, and we fell out of touch a little bit, for 2 or 3 years. And then when I got divorced, I went looking for friends again to see, I went looking for anybody to be there. And John,
that's real bottom of the barrel if you're scraping for John.
Hell, you know what? Right? You know what? So sometimes a rusty hook still catches a fish, man. But yeah, I mean, I went looking around, and John was one of the first guys that was there, to kind of pick me up when I was falling apart from my marriage. And John was the first one to like grab me and give me a hug when my dad died at that. I did the eulogy at my dad's wake, and John was the first one to come up and be a part of my world that was going quite wrong at that moment. But you know how it goes, dude, with friend. And John is, I don't even think he has a heart in his chest, because it stays on his sleeve. I mean, his heart is always out there ready to get stomped on.
Yeah.
But because of that, he's a great friend to have. And we do what we do for each other. He said he was, even with Nerf Herder Council, I helped him and AJ. I'm sure he would tell you. I mean, I spent so much time talking to those guys, how to do intros, how to do outros. They learned StreamYard from me, all the different things. And I'm always willing to help John with whatever project he's doing. And, this podcast was one, and I heard it and it was good. I mean, if you guys would have sucked, I wouldn't have done it, but I heard it and it was good. And I could see where it could easily gain some traction. And I was like, okay, let me stick my nose in this a little bit and see if I can't help a little tiny bit.
Hey, Sean Faust says, I just found your book on Amazon. He's definitely going to read this. Awesome, man. You got a new fan there.
Thank you, Sean.
So you have a couple of like personal type books. You have the Call Me Chris. I think you have the one sort of about your relationship or your divorce, and then don't you have one about the military also?
I do. Yeah, I have 6 total books so far.
Okay.
I have Call Me Chris, which is the burn book, and I have Little Victories, which was about my divorce. It's not really the relationship of the divorce, but it was about, I had spent my whole adult life married. Literally, I got married to my now ex when I was 19, but I dated her when I was 18. So literally my whole entire adult life was married. And then I'm 43 years old. And I'm single all of a sudden. And I didn't know anything. I didn't know how to turn on the fucking washing machine. I mean, I didn't know anything. And so I wrote in real time, just kind of drowning out the pain of divorce through that. So I wrote Little Victories to cover that element of things. And then the other real book is probably the most dangerous of the one. It's going to get me canceled if anybody ever reads it, but it's called And Other Things I Should Not Say, which is my my book about my military time in Korea and in California, where I just was a psychopath running around drinking and being hammered all the time. So, and then I have the three music books, and those are, I have a series that I write called Cause and Effect. And what I do is I take a record and I with the different record that I review or I talk about, it's something that changed something about the band, whether it's the audience or the way music was portrayed or the fan base, whatever it is. Like, and so the three I've done so far are Judas Priest Turbo, Motley Crue 94, the one with John Corabi, and Metallica Black Album. So I rate those as well, because I don't have enough to do.
Are those albums that at the time kind of hit you in a certain way as well, or
I like all three. I'll put it this way: I like all three. Turbo, I thought got a bad rap. I still think Turbo's a pretty good record. People like to shit on that record and say, well, other than Nostradamus, it's the worst in Judas Priestdom, and I'll point to Ram It Down right behind it and say that's 10 times worse. That is an awful record. But at Motley Crue, it's my favorite Motley Crue record. I'm all team Corabi. He can do no wrong for me. And Metallica Black Album, I don't know. I really just started writing something there for the Metallica Black Album thing, and I just sort of wrote.
Yeah. It's weird. Like, I don't know if you are this way with music, but like the older we get, we always just go back to our youth, and like, it's kind of a lame side bar here, but it's like summer hits. Like, I remember my summer, like basically like either my senior year of high school or like my first or second year of college. And it was like TNT Tell No Tales was out, like Hysteria had come out. Like, I don't know. It's just, and I have a pool, not to brag. I have a pool. So, I get my, I get my speaker out there and I Bluetooth it up, and it's just like, I don't know. It's just, there's just such a nostalgia thing the older we get for this music. And it's like, it's so cool that you're able to write about and interview all these people. And it's like the fact that, like, I don't know. I think I'm one of those people that do you think this 80s metal music is ever going to die? Because I played it. Literally, I played a dueling pianos party back in October.
Right.
And I don't think there was 10 people there over the age of 40.
Okay.
And they kept coming up wanting to hear Guns N' Roses and Motley Crue and Def Leppard. And I was just like, and this is two dorks playing pianos.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll ever die. Do you?
It may, but it's still a ways away because it's still got it has two levels still to go before it's going to go away. All the kids that are younger right now, they all fell in love with this stuff playing Guitar Hero or Rock Band. So, all this stuff made up Rock Band and Guitar Hero. So they were kind of raised on it. So they were the generation that was raised on it. So they've all got to turn 40 or 50, and their kids will be the ones that don't get into it as much. And, and I think that's going to be a big part of it. The other big part of it is that music hasn't quite, it's just now starting to get into the classic rock radio territory.
Yep.
Eventually, classic rock radio is going to sound like KLOS or WMMS back in 1988. It's going to be all Poison and Motley Crue and Winger and Warrant. And, that day is coming, and when that happens, then you're going to get another wave of people that listen to it. So I think it's probably the younger kids now that may not get into it, but who knows? I mean, it's going to outlast us. I'll put it that way. And as far as I'm concerned, as long as it outlasts me, I'm fine because I love that stuff.
Yeah, me too. You hit on a good point there with the Guitar Hero stuff, because my niece, who's only not quite 18, I don't think, she had some kind of playlist going on Spotify over here the other day with the pool on, and I'm like,
right.
I actually didn't mind any of it. It was, it was all that kind of, I don't know. It sort of sounds almost like 80s synth pop-ish kind of stuff,
Sure.
Mm-hmm. I don't mind because it's song oriented. I'd rather have that than some like horrible rap or some really bad bro country or something,
Right.
But it's like, the thing I noticed was like, okay, I didn't hear a single song out of the last 2 hours that had a guitar.
Right.
So it kind of goes to your point of like, do you think, I mean, where are we ultimately? And I think we talked about this on a different show I was on with you, but where are we headed to this with like guitar music and metal and like, because all of these guys you interview, you know, you and I are about the same age. Like, I mean, none of them are getting any younger. We're not getting any younger. Where are we going to be in 5-10 years with this? Is this just going to be like you're just going to up and vanish and it's gone, or what?
Yeah, you know, it very well could be. I mean, it's refreshing to see that there are some new bands that are coming out today, you know, that can really, really play. Like I am the biggest supporter on this planet of this band Plush, which is 4 very young girls that are playing rock and metal. And I mean, that's refreshing that you've got like true talent coming up. And there's other bands too, the Dirty Honeys of the world, Joyous Wolf of the world, Greta Van Fleet, if they stop listening to the critics and just make music. You know, there's a lot of those kind of bands that are out there making a lot of good noise. You know, the real difference is that right now it's all underground. It's not, none of these bands are going to be 15,000, 18,000 seat bands. They're just not going to get to that level because there's no outlet for them. I mean, electronics are here to stay. I mean, that there's just, we can hope all we want that 4 people are going to get into a hot, sweaty garage and learn how to play their instruments and come up with that Guns N' Roses magic again. That day's done, man. The truth is you're going to get 4 guys sitting in 4 cities that are going to be throwing MP3s back and forth and trying all their different shit, you know, with their Pro Tools or their Audacity or whatever they're going to use to make music. And
yeah,
I'm still a believer that at some point we are going to get music that is made by no musicians. There will be a successful band, quote unquote band, that does not exist. That is all some studio guy that pieces together vocals and pieces together guitars and drums with machines and makes something that's successful. It's got to happen. It will happen at some point.
Well, I mean, Trent Reznor kind of, you know, sort of does that anyway, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I love it for the, you know, for the talent that he has, but I mean, I think we're already pretty close to there. But yeah, I don't know, it's just always a weird thing because you mentioned you had Lemmy in your phone, and did you probably heard this famous quote when he said, "I remember before there was rock and roll," like. And you think of like what a small time period capsule of anything that we are in. And I don't know, this sort of stuff just fascinates me. Like, okay, we're talking about literally, we're in 2022 or whatever. So we're, you know, almost 50 years or whatever past the Beatles at this point, and which kind of started it, or Elvis, or you know, a lot of the blues guys that people ripped off or whatever, however you want to stay where it started, Chuck Berry and all this and that. But it's like, it's such a small microcosm in anything. And you're like, oh my God, this is when rock all started. And then you just wonder, like, okay, like 100 years from now, is anyone even gonna, no.
Well, I mean, the thing is that without the major mechanism that we had, I mean, we had MTV, we had radio, we had all the things to push it. That we don't have that anymore. You know, and so you're going to get what does get that, which is TV commercials and music and movies and stuff. And what is that? That's all R&B rap. So this generation, the 2015 to whenever this horrible period of music stops, is going to be, you know, that's what's going to dominate it. You're going to see when people talk about this era of music, they're going to talk about Jay-Z and Eminem and, you know, Lil Wayne and, you know, they're not going to, there's not one rock. I mean, who's the rock band that people would talk about from 2005 till today? Is there one? I don't know that there is really one that doesn't have history before that.
That's, let's just say like Nickelback. I don't know.
But I mean, that's a long time, man. That's 17 years.
Right.
And in 17 years, you don't have one band that has jumped up and become the next U2, Springsteen, Metallica, Rolling Stones, pick one. You know, there's not a single one of them. There's a lot of bands that sell 3,000 tickets, 3,000 a place, but there's not any that are selling 20, 30, 50, 60,000. That day is done, right? At least for now, it's done.
Yeah. So since you live in Cleveland, full disclosure, we both live in the Cleveland area. I have never been to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and I refuse to go, kind of on principle.
I don't blame you.
I don't know what your thoughts are, but
there's no bigger hater of the Rock Hall than me. I think it is a disaster. It's just I've been through it once or twice. Twice I've been through it. And it sucks. I mean, if you've been to a Hard Rock, you've seen as much good stuff as, other than the ZZ Top car, there's really no reason to go.
Okay.
Honestly, I mean, you go to the Hard Rocks in like Vegas or somewhere and you see like a Dimebag guitar or the Edge's guitar from the Joshua Tree or whatever, and then you go into the Rock Hall and you see the napkin that James Hetfield wrote Enter Sandman on. Big fucking deal. It's like, it's like, who cares? It's not cool. The voting has gotten stupid. The whole meaning of what it's supposed to be is not there anymore. When you've got bands like Deep Purple not getting in or having to wait several iterations before they can get in on some dumb fan vote or whatever. Yeah. And then you get bands like Chick getting in. I mean, I lived through the disco era. I like a lot of that stuff, to be honest. Part of my weird, awful musical taste, but I like some of that stuff as well. But in the heyday, Chick wasn't even a big band in that era. It was all Donna Summer, maybe the Tramps. It wasn't Chick. They were just there, and they were in. Why? Because somebody at the Rock Hall liked somebody in there. There should be no rappers in. It's for a lot of reasons. I think.
Yeah, we got LL Cool J in there, which I'm super glad about. I still laugh every time I see that. I'm like, what are we?
Yeah.
I laugh online too because so I think Priest officially is in on the fan vote now. Is that what we've?
I think heard? That's what, or some kind of vote. So it was, or they got like the participation trophy award or something.
Yeah, the band that's like sold out arenas around the world and sold 40 million hours and toured for 50 years. Well, let's just kind of let them in.
Yeah. Well, it makes no sense. Why did it take Kiss so long to get in? Kiss taught every band of every genre, even if you think their music sucks, which I personally do. I think their music is terrible. And that being said, you can't argue that every single band that is working today learned how to sell merchandise from watching Kiss.
Oh yeah,
they influenced everybody of every genre.
And put on a show and stuff.
Yeah.
And I just crack up though because sometimes I see these arguments about I heard that they're not going to let such and such in. Judas Priest is in, but they're not going to let such and such. I'm like, these morons took 50 years or 30 years to put this band in. You think they're going to figure out the right people that are supposed to be in?
Yeah.
The fact that they took them this long, you can't expect them to remotely do this correctly. It's just like Iron Maiden's still not in as far as I know. I'm like one of the biggest, most popular bands in the history of the world, ever. I mean,
dude, there's a lot of those bands that are just not in. I don't think Hall & Oates is in there. How many records has Hall & Oates sold?
Oh, wow.
I mean, what have they sold? 150 million records or something?
I didn't know that, but yeah, the fact that Maiden isn't in there still is just other than the Beatles, is there maybe Michael Jackson? Is there a more, just in terms of okay, we can go play whatever country, and there's going to be 100,000 people show up for a concert. And I don't care if you even like Iron Maiden or you hate Iron Maiden or you don't like metal, they're going to get 100,000 people show up at a festival in any country you can name in Europe, South America. I mean, it's like,
it
just cracks me up.
It's ridiculous. I like I said, I am not a fan of it. I don't like the way the voting were. There shouldn't be any voting. There shouldn't be. You should be able to. I don't know. In my mind, as dumb as this may sound, I can look at a band and just say, yeah, they belong in. It's pretty easy to see Iron Maiden and just look at a picture of the crowd at Rock in Rio and say, yep, that's a band that belongs in there. It's not that hard. It's dumb. The whole thing is dumb.
Well, and then the fact too that we don't, and we've gone on a tangent here. Of course, I knew we would with me trying to host, but we don't even have the concert here. It's like, well, we got to have the concert in New York City.
Yeah,
and then it's like, well, so and so can play with the band, but Kiss couldn't have Pete or Chris play, or couldn't have Ace play. I'm like, really, you clowns can't get over yourselves for one night, and the management can't get over themselves to shit out rock and roll all night.
Right. Well, and that's not even the half of it. And then the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame won't give tickets to everybody that's in the band. They had that thing with Steve Miller Band. Steve Miller had all his guys that he wanted to bring in there. And they were like, well, you can have these guys, but if any of these other guys that have played in your band want to come, it's $10,000 a ticket. And it's like, wait a minute, they're in the band being inducted. And you're charging them 10 G's? Come on. It's crazy.
Kale makes a good point. It's Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Isn't all that when people actively turn it down? I think he's talking about Dolly Parton.
Yeah. Well,
and they still were like, no, we want you in. And she's like, I don't want to be in.
Yeah. Well, why is Dolly Parton in the what rock and roll thing has Dolly Parton done?
I don't know. I have no idea. That's like
Country Hall of Fame first balloter, but Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? What did she do? Rock and roll? Is working 9 to 5? Is that considered rock and roll? I mean, come on, that's crazy.
Yeah, I honestly don't know. I mean, I have no idea. So what do you have like writing wise? Are you currently working on anything new, or you have ideas spinning around, or how does this process work? Do you like carry around a pad and go like, well, I'm going to
Not at all, dude. The funniest thing with my writing is it is surprisingly focused, considering I have no planning at all. I mean, I don't write an outline. I don't plan it. I just sit down and start writing, and I just sort of remember where I was when I stopped the last time, and I pick it up wherever I go the next time. I really don't plan it, and I go wherever the mood takes me, and sometimes that's some weird places, but no, I don't really plan anything. I just kind of write, and it's weird because I would have never thought I had this, and this is a gift, being able to write. I know a million people that want to write a book, and they all hit me up, and they're like, I don't know where to start. I don't know how to write it. I don't know how to say what I want to say, and I somehow have that ability to do it. As far as what am I working on right now? I'm working on I have 3 books that I'm working on right now that are in some phase of writing, but I just don't have as much time as I used to. I'm writing a Dokken book right now on kind of like a retrospective of their whole existence type of a deal. And I'm working on a cause and effect book for 9 Inch Nails, The Fragile.
Oh, nice.
I'm working on
going to check that out.
That's such a great album. And the other cause and effect I'm working on is Megadeth's Risk, which is just a horrendous album, but
Kale will defend that album to the death. I think he's all right with that one.
Well, Kale, you're wrong. That album is terrible.
Hey, I always told John before, I was like, hey, at least he's listening to Megadeth. I don't care if it's a bad album.
Yeah.
Listen to some crappy bands.
Yeah, and the weird Megadeth's another one of them weird bands, but I mean the first 5 or 6 are pretty untouchable up until Risk. And then after Risk, it's just kind of like, I thought the world needs, to be honest, I'll be surprising here. I thought the world needs a hero was definitely worse than Risk. I did not like the world needs a hero at all. That was not very good. And then they've kind of been up and down after, sometimes like United Abominations, I thought was pretty damn good. Dystopia, I thought was pretty good. 13, I thought was really not good. What was the other one? The Super Collider. Ooh, I'll take Risk over Super Collider. That's a bad record. Yikes. But
yeah,
they're up and down.
The most recent one, newer one, Endgame.
Dystopia.
I love
Endgame.
Endgame and Dystopia, I think were good.
Right.
Phil Oos, there you go. Says Chris, write a cause and effect book on Wham. John will definitely buy it.
He probably would.
Oh my God. Hey, do you want to write a cause and effect book about a 50-year-old guy that plays in a dueling piano thing once in a while?
Sure.
I have a lot of stories no one gives a crap about.
Dude, if I ever write all the books that people have pitched me to write, I'll never stop writing. I have other offers on the table to do stuff, and I just can't get guys to the table. Like Ronnie Monroe from Metal Church, he wanted to write a book. Me and him went through a bunch of conversations, and then he got busy. Then he's been busy with his new band, Denim and Leather, so he just doesn't have time to do it. And
Okay.
Billy Morris and I, it's a standing joke for the last 15 years. We even have a title, the Tales of an Almost Rock Star, of the Billy Morris thing, where we tell like one really cool story about, playing Pine Knob with 20,000 people for a warrant gig, and then the next story, like, this is the way we want to write it. We want to write this roller coaster.
Right.
One great story, and then follow it with, well, we showed up at a field and they pulled cars around to light the stage. I mean, he's got all these crazy stories, and it's like it would be a good book. So,
well, for people that don't know, Billy Morris is like kind of a Cleveland local, I guess, legend, you'd say.
Yeah.
He's played in bands around. I actually opened for Kid Wicked back in 1991 at the Akron Agora in my locally famous band Bang, which I don't know if you remember them.
I remember Bang. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know you were in that, but I definitely remember Bang. Yeah.
Well, sorry if you remember us. But we have an infamous. Do you have any old U.S. rocker magazines? You probably do, knowing you.
I do not. Believe it or not, I collect nothing, but I know somebody that does. If you're looking for one.
Because I had it at one point. It was a review of our cassette we made.
Okay.
It was just. I mean, it ripped it to shreds. I mean, rightfully so. It was horrible, and I won't even try to pretend we were good. I don't even know what we thought we were. Like, we used to like dress up in like 3-piece suits and stuff. I mean, it was just really dumb. But yeah, we opened for Kid Wicked and Billy Morris. And Billy Morris has been around forever, and then of course went on to play with Warrant and tour with Warrant. And then didn't he also do a tour with Paul Gilbert or something?
He did. Yeah, he played Korea. He went to Korea with Paul Gilbert.
Yeah.
Billy's played in a bunch of bands. He's played in Trickster at some point. He's in Tough now. Whenever Tough plays on this coast, he's the guitar player for Tough. I think I know for a fact he was in Quiet Riot for a minute. He was offered the Bobby Blotzer's Rat gig. And Billy's a great player. I mean, he really is a great player, but
oh yeah, I mean, when you get offered to play with Paul Gilbert, okay, I mean, those other bands are cool, but Paul Gilbert is not just gonna like pick anybody to play with him.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, he's fantastic, man. Paul's a nice guy. I interviewed him like, I don't know, maybe 6 months ago or so. The guy, he's one of those guys that shows up for the interview with the guitar in hand, and like every once in a while he just plays something.
Never not playing the guitar. He's in the shower. Yeah. He's like,
dude, it was totally weird. We were talking about, because it was right when Eddie Van Halen had passed away, so maybe it was like a year. Maybe it was like a year ago or so when I talked to Paul. But he was like, we were talking about Eddie Van Halen passed away, and all of a sudden he just like playing Eddie Van Halen riffs and shit. I was like, nice, getting a free concert here.
You brought up an interesting point earlier, though. You said that like you don't have a plan, you just go right, and it kind of goes back to what I was saying about drive and. So you have a bunch of podcasts you said you listen to. I don't know if you ever listened to Adam Carolla podcast. I love.
Oh yeah,
yeah, because he's big on drive. He calls it grit. I think grit and drive are kind of the same thing, but like
sure.
And you're saying the same things that I hear on that podcast, where someone's like, "Well, I want to write a book, but I don't know where to start," and it's like you just have to do it.
Yeah,
I mean, you literally just have, and I won't go too far off here, but I recently this week went and recorded just a demo of myself just playing piano and singing at a local studio. No big deal, but something I had been terrified to do for years, but know I needed to do if I want to try to get more gigs and stuff. And I just got to go do it. I'm like, it's like you have to like challenge yourself and you have to just do it. There is no, a Yoda. There is no try. There's only Drake will get a kick out of that, but it's like, and that's what's so cool about, just kind of sort of to wrap things up, just having you, take the show on and just everything that you've been through in your life and the drive you have, and you can see how things fit together, and you can see marketing, and you can see business, and you can see creativity. And that's a skill, man. That's an art kind of fit all that stuff together. I mean, John's told me before, he's like, yeah, I don't think Aiken slept in 3 days,
There is that does happen a lot.
Well, yeah, and by 3, you probably told him 3, and it was probably 6, and he's like, well, he's texting me at 4 a.m. because this whatever deal is trying to do this, and it's like, it's like, yeah, I mean, that focus you have and that drive, and we just appreciate everything and being able to be on the network. And it's like, if it wasn't for you, We would not have the Chance LaBrie interview. We definitely would not have got Jordan Rudess.
Yeah,
you know, I mean, we
well,
have
it's fun. For me, it's fun, man. I mean, that's really, it's really the most fun that I have is being able to, like I said, I am not a creative guy, like ultimately creative. I mean, I don't have art skill. I'm a failed drummer. I tried music like everybody else and I sucked at it. At best, I'm a good karaoke singer, but a bad band singer. That's kind of how I've always put it. But I've through drive and determination and zero fear of fucking up, I've been able to succeed in a lot of almost everything that I do. I've taught myself, I mean, the tech stuff, I didn't go to school for it. I just taught myself, I taught myself out of necessity. I taught myself how to build computers because I couldn't afford to pay somebody to install a hard drive or something. So I took a computer apart and figured it out. And, I built my little pinball arcade out there in Pennsylvania. I don't know shit about games. I am the worst about games, but I knew there was something I could do with it. So I figured it out. I studied it and made it work. Same with writing books, same with podcasting, same with everything.
So pimp your pinball, because we do have some East Coast listeners. It's definitely worth a drive out to this joint.
Yeah, well, it's called Pinball PA. It's just west of Pittsburgh. It is I say little, but it's definitely not it's not that little. It's the 5th largest arcade in the country. We have 420 pinball machines and arcade games in there. Basically a split 210 pinball machines and roughly the same in the Defenders and Asteroids and Pac-Man, etc. So yeah, I have that out there. If you're, like I said, it's just west of Pittsburgh. It's 10 minutes from the Pittsburgh airport. So if you're near the airport, you'll find it. So
awesome. Very cool. Well, Chris, this has been an awesome episode having you on. Fun. And again, that's Chris Aiken. He is from the CMS Network, and he has what is your Amazon website?
I don't know. Just look up me. Just look up Chris Aiken. I'm not the most famous Chris Aiken. There's actually this dog trainer guy that dwarfs me.
Okay.
But it drives me, dude. It's funny because him and I have emailed back and forth, once or twice just because and it's I'm like annoyed that he's more famous than me. But he's like some famous dog trainer guy. Okay. Like he's like the preeminent dog trainer in the country. But I have to think he sees some of the crazy shit that I say on Classic Metal Show that comes in his name, and he's probably like, "Oh my God, what is going on in my name?"
Right.
So, but yeah, if you just look me up on Amazon, if you just look up Chris Aiken, you'll find all my books, or you just go to chrisaiken.net, which is that's where everything is, whether it's the Chris Aiken Presents or Classic Metal Show or Talk to Me or Heavy Metal Television or blah blah blah. Everything's there. So that's an easy way.
Awesome, buddy. Well, this has been a great episode with Chris Aiken from the CMS Network. He is the singular person responsible for getting us on and getting our podcast out there to the masses. A couple quick reminders, guys. Don't forget, we had to post it up here on the screen on June 25th. James Chance LaBrie and Paul Logue. We have moved that interview to 1 p.m. on June 25th. That's streaming live on our channel. So come in with questions, and it's going to be awesome. We're going to review the entire new James LaBrie album. Great. Also, again, coming up this Sunday, the 19th, we have Rich Wilson, the author of the Dream Theater biography, Lifting Shadows. And Chris, dude, this has been a great show. I'm so glad and honored to have you on and get your story out there. I mean, cool. That is like this one of the craziest stories I've ever heard. And don't, share that with as many people as you can. Definitely go check out chrisaiken.net. He's also, all of his stuff is on Amazon. I'm Brian from Talking Into Infinity. John is at the Sammy Hagar concert. John, have a great time.
Yeah.
And we will see you guys again coming up this Sunday at 2 p.m. Thanks.